Now returning to today's top story, where Australians in Lebanon are tonight being told to leave immediately as fighting between Israel and Hezbollah escalates. Israel is targeting Hezbollah's weapons, which have been hidden in Lebanese homes. And overnight, almost 500 people were killed. Liberal Shadow Minister for Housing and NDIS, Michael Sukkar, joins me now from Melbourne. Michael, thank you very much for your time. Now, I've asked you on tonight because you personally have Lebanese heritage. You have family right now in Lebanon, in the north. So can you share with us how you're feeling about the fact that really Israel is on the brink of war?
Well, it's obviously heartbreaking for the Lebanese people, and Lebanon has suffered more than its share of these sorts of problems for 40 years now, and it's heartbreaking to see what's happening because we have a terrorist organisation in Hezbollah who is almost a state within a state, who is not operating in the best interests of Lebanon. They are there doing the bidding of the mullahs in Tehran. They are a proxy entity of Iran who have been bombarding Israel and attacking Israel, and now Israel's hit back, and sadly it's the innocent Lebanese people who suffer because of the actions of Hezbollah. And you referred to some of the homes that had munitions placed within them. I'm reliably informed that there were some of those owners of those homes who had absolutely no idea that was happening. So could you imagine how disgraceful that is, to place innocent people in harm's way like that? But sadly, that's what Hezbollah has done. For your viewers who don't follow Middle Eastern, let alone Lebanese politics particularly closely, Hezbollah is, as I said, a government within a government almost. They operate almost independently of the external government or the Lebanese army, and are fully funded by Iran, take their orders from Iran, and are not there doing anything, not fighting for Lebanese interests, not fighting for the interests of any Palestinians either. They are there fighting for the interests of Iran, and now, sadly, innocent Lebanese people are paying the price.
Yeah, an outcome that nobody has wanted. A lot of the media reports today painted the picture of Israel being at war with Lebanon, but, you know, it's not that simple. Lebanese citizens, and in particular Christians, hate the way Hezbollah is bringing war to the country, and there has been a long history of conflict. I mentioned earlier in the show the civil war that went for 15 years. So, Michael, can you tell us a bit about that, about how Lebanese Christians, have this long animosity towards Hezbollah?
Well, Hezbollah is almost, they run a shadow government in a sense. They have caused gridlock in the Lebanese parliament. They have not allowed for the succession of a new president, the president who under the constitution and by convention is a Maronite Catholic. They have, in a sense, caused gridlock in the parliament, and gridlock works for them in the sense that if the democratic institutions of Lebanon are not working, that their power is greater. And Lebanon's obviously suffered a significant economic crisis, but the rivers of gold from Tehran continue to fund Hezbollah, who, as I said, have been making incursions and bombing in Israel. And so it's not a war between Israel and Lebanon. It's Israel seeking to wipe out a terrorist organisation on their border. And the truth is, it's not just Lebanese Christians, it's also Sunnis and some Shiites who put their country first, who are Lebanese first. And anybody who puts Lebanon first and the integrity of its borders and its institutions and its democracy, they tend to be vehemently opposed to Hezbollah, who, as I said, are a shadow government who run their own shadow army, essentially. And as we're seeing now, don't care about the interests of Lebanon. They care about the interests of Iran, and they take orders from Iran, and Iran has told them to bomb Israel, and now Israel is understandably hitting back because you can't have a terrorist organisation sending in volleys of bombs on a daily basis
Yeah.
without it being answered in some way.
No, of course. And I'm going to speak with the former Labor Minister, Mike Kelly, in a moment about what the international community could have done to bring more pressure on Hezbollah instead of criticising Israel all the time. But Michael, you are the Shadow Minister for Housing, so I do want to ask you about this critical issue. We're seeing the Albanese government blaming the Coalition and the Greens for the housing crisis, accusing you of blocking legislation. What is your main objection to the laws that Labor's been putting forward?
Well, what Labor's announced here, which they announced before the election and took them over 2 years to introduce into the parliament, so it can't be that urgent if it took them 2 years to do so, is a minuscule scheme. It's a shared equity scheme. There's a couple of reasons why we don't support it. It's $5.5 billion of taxpayers' money for a scheme that has already existed in most of our states or territories. Basically, shared equity is when you co-own the home with the government. In a sense, you have Anthony Albanese at the kitchen table. These schemes have not been a success. In New South Wales, for example, under their scheme, when this was first introduced, more than 90% of the places in the New South Wales scheme were still available. So what the Albanese government has done here is they've tried to create a bill that makes it look like they're trying to do something when they're really not trying to do anything, because shared equity schemes have already been rejected by Australians, and the last thing we need is for them to be spending another $5.5 billion on a minuscule, tiny scheme that would hardly impact anybody, that's quite frankly been rejected by Australians anyway.
Yeah.
The truth is, under this government, we have fewer homes being built, fewer homes being approved. We've got record levels of migration, which are pushing up rents. This is Labor's housing crisis, and the sad news for your viewers is that Labor's housing crisis is just getting worse. It's not getting better, because they're still bringing in more than 500,000 migrants up in the last 12 months, when we're building fewer homes than were being built when I was the housing minister in the former coalition government, and when we had record levels of first home buyers. So
yeah, and
everything's got worse on Anthony Albanese's watch, and there's no answers.
And it looks like the migration figures aren't going to come down, as the government said they would as well. Michael Sicker, really appreciate your time tonight, and I hope your family stay safe.